Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Homescapes and welcome to part 2 of my garden tour video. If you haven't watched part 1 of my garden tour yet, do give it a watch. I will leave the link in the description box below. So last Sunday I had given a tour of this side of the garden, and today I'll be giving a tour of the other side of the garden, and also I'll be sharing with you some of the new blooms in my garden. So spring season is here, and long ago I had read a quote that said, "Spring adds new life and new beauty to all that is." And in the case of my garden, that is exactly true, because there are so many blooms and almost all of the flowering plants are flowering right now. And the other plants, they're putting forth new growth and are growing really well. Moving on to this corner first, the first plant I have here is ERANTHEMUM LAXIFLORUM. This is a perennial flowering plant and it produces purple colored flowers. I have placed 3 of these plants in a row, and these 2 plants over here have been grown from cuttings. Next up here I have a white TECOMA plant. As you can see, it has very glossy leaves and it produces white colored flowers with yellow centers in bunches. In the front row, the first plant I have is PENTAS. So this is a very pretty lavender shade of PENTAS, and PENTAS, it blooms profusely throughout the year and it is a relatively low maintenance plant. This is also very great for attracting butterflies and other pollinators to your garden. Next I have here a AGLONEMA plant, also known as Chinese evergreen. So this one was received as a gift and it has pink colored leaf margins and pink stems. Beside it I have another Chinese evergreen plant. Now this one has 2 shades of green in it. Now plants like these are really great to add some color to your space in the absence of flowers. Now with these foliage plants, you don't need to worry about care like deadheading or frequent fertilizing. So these will do well if you fertilize these once a month. You can use any liquid fertilizer to do so. The only maintenance these plants need is just snip off the old leaves. Also, these plants do well in shade or areas that receive partial shade. The next plant here is a variety of CALATHEA. Now this one has very dull muted green color to its leaves, and a while ago I had made some cuttings of PENTAS and had planted them in small pots, so I'm going to plant these in my backyard garden. Now moving to the stand area, so here I have 2 3-layered stands and I have placed different varieties of plants in each layer. So as you can see, the top layer I have placed KASHMIRI rose. So these plants are in full bloom right now. So unlike some English roses, these KASHMIRI roses, they do well in areas which receive 4 to 5 hours of sunlight. And this top stand over here, it is ideal for growing these KASHMIRI roses because it receives almost 3 hours of morning sun and about 2 hours of evening sun. So this variety of roses, they have very thin slender stems, and these they usually bloom in bunches. So whenever these are in full bloom, the roses usually they keep drooping down because the thin slender stems, they cannot bear the weight of the roses. Also these roses, they have a very strong scent to them, and these are very good for making rose water. So in front of these rose plants, I have placed a row of toranias. Now these toranias are spent, their blooming season is over. These toranias, they are annual flowering plants, so after the blooms they die off. But you can always collect seeds so that you can grow new plants the next season. So this here is a pot of impatiens. It is also known as busy lizzie. Also guys, all the toranias that I have here, they have been grown from seeds. Now these toranias, they're very easy to grow from seeds. So instead of buying a plant from the nursery, I recommend you to collect the seeds and keep so that you can grow it every season. Now moving on to the second layer of this stand. So here I have two more basilicas or impatiens. So the first one is in an orange color, and this plant over here, it blooms in two colors. One half of the plant it produces orange colored flowers like these, and the other half produces a baby pink colored flower. So in the month of December I had propagated a lot of epicenias from cuttings. So now these are growing really well and they're overflowing the containers that I have grown them in. I really like the pattern of the leaves of these epicenias, and they do produce tiny flowers as well. Now epicenia plants, they are a little bit delicate, so these are not recommended for beginner gardeners. You have to keep in check the water and the sunlight requirement for this plant. And the next trailing plant over here is Creeping Charlie. Now this plant, it is very great for hanging baskets. And as you can see, the leaves of this plant, they closely resemble that of mint leaves. Moving on to the third row, the first plant I have here is Syngonium. It is also known as arrowhead plant, and this is the most common variety of Syngonium found in nurseries. On the same row, I do have other plants, like I have two pink Anthuriums and there is a brown Syngonium pot. The next plant here is called common rue, or it is also known as herb of grace. This plant is very commonly used in traditional medicine. Next here I have a very small CALATHEA plant. Now this particular variety is called CALATHEA ornata, and I had borrowed this from my aunt. Moving on to the third layer of the other stand. So this is a white Anthurium plant over here. As you can see, the flowers of Anthurium, they look artificial and very plasticky, but these flowers, they're very long lasting, and the plant itself is very disease resistant. Apart from this plant, I do have another white Anthurium, two pots of Syngonium and a red Anthurium on this stand. Anthuriums are great plants for beginner gardeners because these plants are very hard to kill. So if you are someone who has a cemented veranda or an interlocked veranda, stands are a great addition to your garden because these make use of the vertical height as well, and you can place a lot of plants on it. Also, the area under the stand is easily accessible, so cleaning becomes a lot more easier. So these two plants right here, these are Celosia, one in a shade of deep red and the other a bright yellow. This plant here is a busy lizzie. It is in a shade of very bright vibrant red color. Now these plants, they have very tender stems and they are very susceptible to rot. So it is very essential that you keep the soil water content under check always. Moving on to this corner right here. So I have placed all the pots on the ground over here. And the first plant that I want to show you is this plant over here. This is known as ALOCASIA, also known as elephant ears commonly. So the size of the leaves, it is bigger than the size of my palm. Also this plant gives a very tropical vibe to the garden. And this here is a baby ALOCASIA. And this is a Ficus benjamina, almost reaching 5 feet. And this is a small lemon ginger plant grown from cutting. It produces yellow colored flowers. And this plant over here, it is a new addition to my garden. I got this about 2 months ago, and because of repotting shock, it had shed all of its leaves. And now it has produced new leaves. So the leaves, they have patches of white and a very pleasant green color. The leaves of this plant, they look very identical to Japanese maple. And this is a hosta plant. So these days the temperatures in our area has been rising, and Zazu keeps finding cool areas between the plants to cool himself off. And this is a variety of fern over here. It is known as lemon button fern. And this is a CALATHEA ZEBRINA. As you can see, it's grown massive. And this over here is a Dracaena. So as you can see, in this corner I have placed all of the plants in groups. That is because the same bulbul that I showed you last time, it's made its nest all over again, and so I don't want Zazu to go and disturb the bird. So in front of the juniper tree, I have another variety of CALATHEA. Now this is the same one that I showed you earlier. And beside it, I have a areca palm plant. And behind this areca palm, I have a few green syngoniums. And behind the green syngoniums, I have this Dieffenbachia plant. It is also known as dumb cane. And this corner over here, it is the most peaceful corner of my garden, and it is the ideal hangout spot for so many different varieties of birds, and it feels really nice to be waking up to them every morning. And this over here is a dwarf variety of foxtail fern in the spot. And my clematis vine over here, it is blooming right now, and our entire veranda smells of nothing but these flowers. And right below the clematis vine, I have placed a bird bath, and there is another one too. So the birds, they really like to come and take a bath over here. And this is my massive bougainvillea shrub over here, and right now it is blooming. It produces orange colored flowers which eventually turn pinkish on exposure to sunlight. And in this agro bag here are yellow colored porcelain flowers. So I recently shifted these from the terrace. Now moving on to the other side of my garden. So I have already given a tour on this side of the garden, but today I'm going to show you some of the plants and flowers which I missed to show. And also guys, gardening is a process, so don't lose hope, keep trying, and eventually you'll learn how to do it right. So even though I keep giving tips on how to take care of different plants, you yourself will learn how to take care of them, because the demands of the plants, it depends on the area as well, and it depends on the location you have placed them, and it depends on a lot of other things. So with time you'll learn to do things right. And this here is a pinkish red variety of hybrid Kalanchoo, and this is a single petal variety of geranium. This is in a shade of light pink color. Now I have seen that geraniums don't do well in my area, and I had to work extra hard to save this plant. Now moving on to this area, so I have placed some plants on the compound as well, so I'll show you those. The first one over here is DIMORPHOTHECA, or it is also known as African daisy. Now these plants have been grown from seeds. I had sown the seeds somewhere between October and November, and now these are produced buds. Next I have a rectangular container with bubblegum pink petunias. So now these petunias are yet to grow, they are yet to flower more. And this is a dwarf variety of Pedilanthus. And this is the first bloom on this rose plant, so it was really tiny when my mom bought it first, so she'll be very happy when she sees this. And this is a two-color variety of petunia, so this is in a shade of purple and white. And also guys, note that petunias are annual flowering plants. These grow readily from seeds, and they grow really quickly, and they bloom a lot and then they die off. And this white and fuchsia pink colored petunia is my favorite. And yeah, this plant was very badly damaged because Zazu had put it down from the compound, but now it is growing really well. And this is a very pretty bloom of ALLAMANDA, and this is the second largest bloom after hibiscus. These are more petunias in white and red shade. This plant here is PHLOX. Now I had grown these from seeds as well. So as you can see, there are many different colors. There is a bright fuchsia pink, there is a white shade with pink centers, and there is a lavender color shade. And this is a very bright yellow color ALLAMANDA, and this plant, it will bloom more as summers approach. And this plant over here, it is sweet potato vine, also known as IPOMOEA. Now this is not the edible sweet potato vine, this is an ornamental variety of sweet potato vine. Now this is in a very neon vibrant green color. And this here is a bleeding heart vine. Now this produces white blooms, but as these blooms age, they become purple in color. This over here is another variety of ornamental sweet potato vine. Now this one has deep blackish purple colored leaves, and the leaves, they have a heart shape. And there's a lot of randomly growing porcelain over here, must have grown from seeds. And this trading plant over here with red colored flowers, it is red cat's tail. The blooms of this plant, they do feel like a cat's tail. This neon green ornamental sweet potato vine, it seems to be growing towards another pot, and behind these bright colored leaves is this terracotta planter. Now this has tiny Mexican petunia plants grown from seeds. And this purple bougainvillea plant over here is also all ready to produce more flowers, and there are also more randomly growing porcelains in this pot. And the next plant over here is golden hedge plant or Duranta. Now these tiny purple colored flowers of this plant, they seem to attract a lot of butterflies and bees, and every morning when I water these plants, I see a swarm of butterflies and bees over these purple colored flowers. And these right here are euphorbias. So all these plants have been grown from cuttings. And here we come to an end of this video, and if you really enjoyed watching this video, then please give it a thumbs up and do like, share and subscribe to my channel. Bye guys.